Hello friends, my name is Professor Mohammad Umair, and this video will assist you in comprehending the following information. First, we will look into what are program outcomes, or you can define in terms of a graduate attributes or as in graduation characteristics. Now, what do you understand by this program outcome? If we consider a program, engineering program, specific in particular, now any accreditation board, after a student admits into a given engineering program, and each engineering program is of 4 years of duration. Now, after completing 4 years of any engineering program, what are the outcomes we need to look into a graduate? Right? So now the accreditation board or a body has defined that they want to look into these 12 outcomes, program outcomes. For an engineering student, they have defined 12 program outcomes. Okay, so what do we understand by this program outcomes? Whenever a student that admits into any engineering program which is of 4 year duration, and after completing 4 years of duration, so what are the characteristics he carries, what are the graduation attributes he carries into the market. So how many program outcomes we have defined? So we have 12 program outcomes, and these program outcomes, what are they? So we are looking to each program outcome in the coming slides. Next, now, to achieve this program outcomes, you have to develop a curriculum. Now, to develop a curriculum, you have to develop the courses for a program, right? So, and this out of the 4 years, we will divide this 4 years into 8 semesters. Each year will compose of 2 semesters, right? And we are targeting to achieve or to inculcate these 12 program outcomes in a graduate. Now, to accomplish these program outcomes, so we have to develop the courses. Now, to develop a courses, before we develop a course, we need to define what are the course outcomes. Now, while defining a course outcome, the course outcome must be as specific. The first condition is that it should be specific in nature by its nature, and it needs to be measurable. So you just cannot say that the course outcome that they have understand the whole concept of what you have been delivered to them. So it is not measurable, right? So remember, while defining the course outcome statements, it should be a specific and it should be a measurable. So these are the two mandatory conditions to define a course outcome. And how to define a course outcome and how to link this outcome with the Bloom's level, that also we are going to look into this video. And thirdly, we are into mapping the course outcome. As I said you that each course outcomes are measurable. Now what is the level of that course outcome, right? And Bloom's have 6 levels, right? So there are there are three cognitive levels we have developed by the Blooms. One is knowledge based, the second one is the skill based, and the third one is the attitude based. And these 12 program outcomes are also mapped into these three cognitive levels. So few of the program outcomes are knowledge based, skill based, and the other are also attitude based, right? So that also we are going to look into. And when I say the Bloom's level, if I only pick up the knowledge based, again in the knowledge based we have 6 levels, level 1 to level 6. So level 1 says about what? Remembering, remembering the concepts. Say for example, Newton's third laws of motion, right? So it is already been predefined by the Newton, and that statement I need to remember, right? And likewise, the level 2 says about the understanding. So how much you have understand, say for example, you have an Ohm's law. So the statement you have explained, you have remembered. Now where to apply that Ohm's law, or whether you have understood the concept of the Ohm's law. So that is level 2. And the third level speaks about the application. Similarly, the level 4 speaks about the analyze part, and the level 5 speaks about the evaluation part. So what is the difference between analyze and the evaluate? So analyze a given system, only a system that is not comparable to the other. So a given system, we are going to analyze it. In evaluate, what we are going to do is we are going to compare two systems. We will analyze both the system, and at the end result, so we are going to select which one is the best compared to the other one. So that is the evaluation level. And finally, level 6 is speaks about the creativity or the create level. So these are the 6 cognitive levels. Again, we have put into the knowledge based cognitive level, right? Now, as I said you that our course outcomes needs to be measurable, then what is the method to compute how to measure that course outcome? So to do that one, so we have to define the target levels. Now I have chosen 3 indicators for this, namely high, medium, and low. For high indicator, I will set it as an 3. For medium indicator, I set the value as 2, and for low, I will set the value as 1. Now, how do you set this target levels? During your course coordinator meeting, or during your department meetings, the conduction before the semester starts. So these target levels you are supposed to fix. Say for example, for me, what is 3, right? And what is 2 stands for and what is 1 stands for, that statement level we need to define it. And we will have a case study for this HML in the coming slides. The next is what? Now once I deliver a course to the students in a given semester, now how this course outcomes are being mapped to the program outcomes. So that correlation we have to build. Then we have to define. So when I say that the course outcomes are measurable, what are the evaluation rubrics we have defined? So we are going to deal with how to define the evaluation rubrics for this. And once the evaluation rubrics are been defined, then we will have the examination system in terms of either you conduct MCQ or kind of course exit survey or internal assessment or main exam, or you have a case study presentation, or you have a seminar presentation, or in terms of project, in terms of mini project, in terms of laboratory conduction. So there are different types of evaluation rubrics. So once the evaluation rubrics are been defined, so we have to calculate how much course outcome we have been attained and what was the target set before the commencement of the semester, and what are the gaps we need to find out. So in locating the gaps, say for example, during the commencement of the semester, uh, during the course coordinator meeting, we say that this is your target, this much you have to attain, right? So the target value has been defined. Say for example, the ideal value is 3. So we have to achieve this 3. Say what do you mean by 3? So like say for example, 60 percentage of your students needs to score more than 60 percentage of the marks. So for me that is 3. If in a given if we have a class of 100 students, so what was the target set given to me, a challenge given to me, that so you delivered your system this course with your innovative teaching learning procedure or the process or pedagogy you apply, so that minimum 60 percentage of my students needs to have a score of more than 60 percentage. For me that is the target set, right? So if it is not set, then we have to identify where we have been failed, so where we are lacking in the course delivery. So the course delivery needs to be looked into back, and that will be carried forward to the uh, next what we say. So next time those who are carrying out the subject delivery, course delivery, so they need to identify the failure and they need to fill that gap, right? And finally, we will have an impact assessment. So the complete assessment where we have done good, or if it is good, if it is appreciable, how long we can carry this one, and if it is already been achieved, uh, what is the next level we need to upgrade the syllabus. So that kind of impact assessment we have supposed to do, right? So I was talking about the program outcomes and the graduation characteristics, or we can call it as a graduation attribute. As I said you that as per National Board of Accreditations, we have 12 POs, program outcomes, right? And these program outcomes have been classified into knowledge based, right, skill based, or and it is an attitude based. So three cognitive levels we have covered. So any graduate engineer needs to have not only knowledge, he must carry the along with the knowledge, skills, and a right attitude is also very important. So the accreditation team looks at how our curriculum is been designed, and that addresses all the three cognitive levels, that namely knowledge based, skill based, and attitude based. Just I will take an example how we can map these 12 program outcomes to the Bloom's level. Now, what is the program outcome number one says about? So it usually says starts with the application level, right? So the as per the accreditation board, they have kept at the higher cognitive level. So the Bloom speaks about remember. It starts with level one, remembering, understanding. So right. So these two they have not considered, and they have started with the cognitive level three, right? That is from the apply level. So they have to apply the knowledge of the mathematics, science, engineering fundamentals. And if I look at this statement, so the program outcome says about the application area of the engineering knowledge, right? And if I look at the program outcome two, it talks about the analysis part, right? So analyzing the complex engineering problems. So I can map this it to level 4, and I will map it this to level 3. And these are the knowledge based. Now look at the program outcome 3 statement. What it says is about the design, right? So you have to evaluate your design, right? So I'm going to map it this to level number 5. That is about the evaluation level. And after looking at the statement 4, program outcome statement 4, it talks about your research based knowledge. You need to come something innovative, creativeness, right? So that includes design of the experiment. So something it is linking to the create level. So I will map it to levels number 6. So likewise, so program outcome number 5 says about the model tool usage during your delivery of the course. So any tool usage, if you have done, it is a skill based. So you are inculcating skills in the students, not only the through the knowledge base. So you are inculcating the skill based. So the skill cognitive levels are also been needs to be mapped to these program outcomes, and this goes on till program outcome number 12. And if you look at the attitude, program outcome number 8 speaks about the ethical the students or a person needs to be carrying in his professional life. So the program outcome 8 addresses about the attitude cognitive level, right? Okay, so keeping this information, so now we have to define what the first we have to define to achieve that 12 program outcomes. Now what are the codes you are going to float in the throughout 4 years of a program? So just an example I'm going to take that uh, for me, uh, I need to interpret the functional architecture of the computing system. So that is my first program outcome. The second program outcome speaks about how an instruction set is been designed, how we architect an instruction scheme. So that is my second outcome. If a student must know how a CPU works, what is the purpose of the control unit inside the CPU, and how a CPU will calculate the arithmetic. That is how the computer is going to solve the arithmetic floating point representation. And different resources of a system includes memory systems, IO methods, and we will have a case study of the processors. What was the evolutions of the processor, and throughout different generations of the processor, you want to compare the performance. You have to examine the performance. Now look at this. Now these are my 6 course outcomes. Now to address this course outcome, so before that we are going to map these course outcomes with what? With the Bloom's level, right? So interpret the functional architecture, right? So interpret is an action verb. Now what interpret means? So it comes falls under the understanding level. So I'm going to put this is at the cognitive level 2, level 2. Okay, that is the understanding level. So I'm going to apply whatever the instruction set architecture they have been made us to study. So where we are going to apply this one. So I'm going to put into L3, that is the application level. Similarly, the course outcome 3 and 4 needs to be put into the application level. And course outcome number 5, so we are going to distinguish between the memory system and the IO methods. So I'm going to put that into level 4. Okay, that action verbs are distinguished, and it is we are very specific here. We are going to distinguish between memory systems and the IO methods. And course outcome number 6 says about we are going to examine the performance of the various processor. So I'm going to put as it as an L4. Now once the course outcomes, and remember the course outcomes are needs to be measurable, and there should be an action verb, and it should be specific, right? So now we have defined the 6 course outcomes, and these 6 course outcomes we have been mapped to the Bloom's level, right? And why we need to map to the Bloom's level? Because finally I need to build the correlation between the course outcome and the program outcome. Well, to address these course outcomes, we have to develop the syllabus. We have to develop the curriculum for this. One of the course, now to address these 6 course outcomes, we will define and a course, that is computer organization and architecture, and there will be a subject code defined for this, how many credits you are going to keep it, and how many total hours it carries in a semester, internal marks, external marks, whether there is a lab associated with this, or you are going to connect a tutorial class for this syllabus. So all these things are been defined. Once the course outcomes are defined, so we will start uh, making or designing this syllabus. Okay, designing a course syllabus, right? So I have included 5 units here, and to address the fifth course outcome number 6, so to examine the various processor, we are going to use some skill based, simulation based uh, modern tools usage we are going to use. That is the case study of an Moonbat or Pentium 4 processor using a CPU simulator. And to distinguish between memory system and IO methods, so it is for me, my students needs to be given the a fair knowledge, amount of knowledge on IO system and on the memory system, computer arithmetic, right? And how a system is, how the CPU is working. The main components of the CPU are register section, ALU section, and the control unit. So, and the basic knowledge about the basic structure of the computer, the functional architecture, how a computer is developed. So that, so once the syllabus for that course has been defined, right? So you have to give the textbook reference materials for the students to refer these contents, right? So once this is done, so we have to, as I said you, that we need to have indicators, right? So that is H, M, and L. So what is H stands for? H stands for 3, M stands for 2, and L stands for 1. And these are just an indicator level. Now you have to define the targets. Now how do you define the targets? In the before you start delivering the course, before the commencement of the semester, you must have a meeting with your course or coordinator, or with your professors, experienced teachers, that what should be the target needs to be set, right? So I have taken an example that 60 percentage of my students needs to score more than 60 percentage of the marks. Then for me, that is 3, right? Or you can keep it as my 70 percentage of the students scoring 70 percentage of the marks. So this is how we have defined it for H. The statement has been defined, the target has been defined. For M, the target has been defined, and for similarly for L, 40 percentage of the students scoring greater than or equal to 60 percentage of the marks, right? Now this HML are defined. Now what we are going to do is, now if you look at this uh, the four program outcomes, the first four program outcomes, which are knowledge based, that is PO1, 2, 3, and 4, and look at the cognitive Bloom's level L3, L4, L5, and L6, right? So what I can do is my 12 program outcomes. So it is not necessary that your course needs to address all the 12 program outcomes. Your course can address only one program outcome, or it can addresses the four program outcomes, or it is not mandated that it should be only the knowledge based. It can be directly to on the attitude based kind of thing. So finally, what we are going to take as an example, my first four program outcomes I need to map, which are on the knowledge based. So what is the Bloom's level for the program outcome number 1? That is the application level. So I will keep it as level number 3, and program outcome is at level number 4, and program outcome number 3 is at level number 5, and the program outcome number 4 says about the create level, about the design and the development level. So it is for me level number 6. The Bloom's level is 6. Now look at the course outcomes we have defined. So course outcome number 1 is at 2, right? So level number 2. So this speaks about the understanding level, this speaks about the application level, right? And this speaks about the analyze level. So these are the 6 course outcomes with Bloom's level mapped, and the program outcomes are also Bloom's level. It has been mapped. Now map it now. So you need to build the relation between using this HML or 3 to 1. The the program outcome 1, this is, we cannot change the program outcome because it is already predefined, right? Now who have defined this course outcome? So we as a course coordinator, we have defined, as a department we have defined. Now my course outcome number 1 speaks about what? The understanding, the interpret of the functional architecture of the computing system. Now what we are expecting as a program outcome, they are expecting at the application of the knowledge, right? So but my course outcome 1, I am expecting what my student needs to have and interpret the functional architecture of a computer, right? So there is a mismatch, right? So if it is matching perfectly, so our course outcome is also addressing the application level, and the program outcome number 1 is also expecting us to have at application level. If both matches, we will give 3. If it is not matching, we are one level below the program outcome number 1, so I will write it as 2. So I am at the middle level. Okay. And similarly, since it is beyond application level, so here we are talking about the analyze level, and since the course outcome is addressing at the understanding level, so it is at 1, and the uh, evaluation level and the create level, it is not addressing, so leave it empty. Okay. And course outcome number 2, it addresses the application level. So what is the application level? We are going to have the how the instruction set architecture is going to be applied during in the design of this computer. So we are course outcome is addressing at L3, so therefore even program outcome number 1 is also expecting at the application level, so it matches. So we are mapping to program outcome number 1 with CO number 2 as 3. But analyze level, so we are not looking forward for this, so we will go one step down, so mark it as at 2. And at the evaluate level, so we are not addressing, so we are far behind. So because CO2 is addressing at the application level, and PO number 3 accepting at us to at the uh, evaluate level. So we are two steps far behind. So you can say it as 3 minus 5, right? So we are two steps behind. So 1. And again, L6 we are very far behind. So it is 0. Similarly, course outcome number 3 also says about L3. So 3 to 1. So we are not addressing. Now we can take outcome number 5, which talks about what? It talks about the distinguished memory systems and IO methods. So we are going to compare, we are going to analyze the two systems, right? So the memory systems and the IO systems. So the addresses at level number 4. So we are also program outcome number 1 addresses at what? We are expecting at application level. So it is 3. We are already doing that one. So program outcome number 2 says about the analyze part. So we are going to, and since we are analyzing here, distinguishing, so I will give 3. And evaluate, so we are not going to do, so put it 2. And we are not going to have a create level at program outcome number 4. That is not addressing, it is much far behind, so it is 1. So similarly for course outcome number 6, right? So these are this is how we are going to build the core relation matrix between the CO and the PO, and take the average, find out the average value, and these are your target values. So these are your PO target values. So this is the ideal speaking, right? So now, what are your assessment rubrics for this? Your assessment rubrics, how do you evaluate the course outcome, right? So we have to conduct an examination system. What is your evaluation procedure? Where are your assessment rubrics, right? So we are going to develop the assessment rubrics. Now how do you define the assessment rubrics, right? The first assessment rubric, say for example, your assessment rubrics, you classify into two. One is direct assessment. I'm going to use the direct tool, and indirect tool. Indirect assessment and direct assessment. Now, what is the difference between direct assessment and indirect assessment? Your indirect assessment is that you as a course handler, you are not being directly involved with the students. The best example for the indirect assessment is, so you are going to conduct what? Course exit survey. So the moment you complete your course in a semester, your course exit survey will be conducted by the department. So you are not directly in contact with the students, but however, the students are going to give the feedback on how much they have understood from the course, right? So that is that indirect tool. In the direct assessment, here the course handler, the faculty, and the student, we have a direct relation between them, like in terms of examination. So in direct assessment, again we will classify into two levels. One is your internal assessment, and the other one is the semester end examination. And how much portion you have given the weightage? So 30 percentage of the weightage you have given to internal assessment, and 70 percentage you have given a weightage to the semester end examination. Now before this, so in this rubrics, when you have an assessment rubrics and you have classified into direct assessment and indirect assessment, what portion, weightage portion you have given to direct assessment? It is 80 percentage. And since it is indirect, because you are going to do some sort of feedback from the student, so restrict it to the lower weightage, like say for example 20 percentage. So 20 percentage we have given the weightage to indirect assessment, and 80 percentage of that we have given to direct assessment. And direct assessment, again you can classify it, you can have an internal assessment or continuous internal assessment you are going to do, or semester end examination you are going to conduct an examination. So semester end external examination, external question paper. So the question comes from the external, not from the internal course handler. So we need to give more weightage to that. So semester end examination, we are going to give 70%, and for I it is given 30%. So this is how we need to read that 30% of 80 and 70% of the 80, and this 20%, uh, the course exit survey, whatever we have done, that is 100% of the 20, it will goes to the assessment rubrics. So I will just take you for an how final the attainment calculation is been done. So I have a table here. uh, what we are going to do, so we are going to have two internal test papers, so test 1 and test 2. So in a semester you are going to conduct two tests, and those two tests, what will be the mode, you are going to define it as a descriptive mode. So 90 marks of descriptive questions you are keeping, and for test 2 also 90 marks of descriptive question paper you have set, and you have asked the students to answer that one. And finally the question paper what you have set in the internal assessment, the questions are to be mapped with the COs, which COs you have been asking to your students. So your question paper must contain the CO mapping, right? So just for an example, I will show you the question paper, how to set the question paper also. So I will take you to a sample test 1 question paper or test 2 question paper, right? So just an example I'm going to display. So test 1 question paper. So this is our test 1 question paper. Now look at this. So I have convert a number system into a different base system, base number system. So this question has been mapped to CO4. Now why it has been mapped to CO4? Now look at our CO statement, what we have defined. The CO4 says about how to solve and computer arithmetic. So how a computer solves the number system, right? So machine works in the binary number system. So my question in the question paper, it is related to what? A computational, computer arithmetic part. So I'm going to map these questions to CO4. Similarly, R's complement, R minus 1's complement, how the computer is going to compute the R minus 1's complement and R's complement like CO4, right? And for example, you have a complete the following table, right? So this was a comparison, the evolution, the brief explanation, and why it has been mapped to CO1. If you look at the definition of the course outcome number 1, what it says, it interprets the functional architecture of the computing system, right? So we are very near that we are talking about what is the architecture of different types of the computers, right? So this is how you have to set your question paper. So your internal question paper needs to be mapped with the COs, and also in the question paper needs to, each question needs to be having a different Bloom's level, right? So the application part, so compare and contrast, you are comparing that you are going to do what? L4, right? Finally, we will come back to the assessment rubrics. Yes. So once the test question paper are mapped to COs and you are going to conduct two tests, so 90 marks for each, and then you can have internal assessment through MCQ. So you can have another internal assessment, that is MCQ. So objective type questions you have given, and you have mapped each questions to the MCQ, or all the types of questions are there. So it is from CO1 to CO6. So it is a blend of all the COs in the MCQ. Then you can make it as all COs are addressed in that. Similarly, you can carry out the different activities. So activity number 1, activity number 2, and again you have to map all your CO number 1 to CO number 6 for that, right? So keeping that in mind, so how much value we have been attained, right? How to get this 23332? Now we have to go back to our scorecard, right? Student scorecard. Now, what is this tools means? After the internal assessment conduction, I observed that so 60 percentage of the student scoring more than 60 percentage of the marks are not 60. Say for example, in a class there are 100 students. I have not found 60 students have not scored, right? So 60 students have not scored more than 60 percentage of the marks. It has been observed like around 55 of my student or 55 percentage of my student have scored more than 60 percentage of the marks. So therefore, that is the reason why we have written it as 2. For CO2, like 3 means we have achieved this target. So 60 percentage of my student in a class have scored more than 60 percentage of the marks. So this is how you have to uh, uh, fill this one, and similarly to 2. If less than 50 percentage, then it has been 40 percentage. If it is less than 40 percentage, less than or below 40 percentage, it is level indicator 1. Similarly, then what weightage we have given? We have given a weightage of what for internal? Again, in internal we have given 30 percentage, right? So 30 percentage for internal assessment we have given. Now in this 30 percentage internal assessment, I am going to conduct what I am going to conduct. So 20 percentage of the marks is given to what? 20 percentage of the marks it is given to descriptive type, right? So 20 marks, 5 marks for the MCQ and 5 marks for the assignment kind of activity one. So 20 percentage. So this 30 percentage you need to split as what? 20 percentage of descriptive, 5 percentage of MCQ, and the 5 percentage as an assignment. So the further 30 percentage have been classified into what? 20 percentage, because out of 30 marks, 20 marks weightage you have given to what? Right? You are given to the descriptive type. So 20 percentage. Then similarly 5 marks out of 30, right? So 5 percentage. So totally internal assessment weightage is 30%. So that 30 percentage we have kept it as what? 20% plus 5% plus 5%. Now what is this 20%? Descriptive mode. This 5% MCQ mode. This 5% it is activity kind or assignment kind of submission, right? And for assignment, say for example in an MCQ, not your 60 percentage of the student, or say for example only 30 percentage of your total strength of the class have scored more than 60 percentage of the marks. So since only 30 percentage have scored greater than or equal to 60 percentage of the marks, so the level indicator is 1. So I will put all ones. Now why I'm putting all ones to all 6 COs? Because in general the MCQ, I'm going to address CO1 to CO6. Suppose if you are not mapping your questions to each particular MCQ questions, then we will apply commonly same all CO1s to CO6. Similarly, for the assignment also, if your assignment is particularly targeting in a course, any particular course outcome, you define for that. And if it is not targeting, you need to leave it. So as of now, for our simplicity, we have considered the assignment which addresses all the course outcomes. Which addresses what? All the course outcomes. So since the assignment submission, they have submitted whatever the problems have been given to them, and all my students, like say for example 70 percentage of my student in a class have scored more than 60 percentage of the marks for assignment marks. So therefore I'm going to put 3 across all the 6 COs, right? And then you consider the 5 percentage of that 3 marks, right? And then assessment, your semester end examination. So what is semester end examination says about your university end question paper? Again, it is, you don't know what type of questions are being framed by the external. So I assume that the question that comes from the particular course are mapped to all the 6 COs, right? So how much, again 60 percentage of the students scoring more than 60 percentage? Yes. So you write 3. If it is less than 60 percentage, you write it 2. If it is even less than 50 percentage, you write it 1. So we have from this university end exam, semester end examination, I found that more than 60 percentage of my students have scored more than 60 percentage of the mark. So therefore the 3 value is been retained in all the 6 COs. Okay, right? And then the weightage what we have given is 70 percentage, so 70 percentage of that you have to take, and all these values you need to add, that is 20 percentage this column, this column, and this columns you need to add together, and then these two columns needs to be added together. So so we are going to get it right. So 2.1 plus 0.6, so it is 2.7. And similarly, and course exit survey you are supposed to calculate. So after adding these, you have direct assessment, we have given weightage of 80 percentage. Again you take 80 percentage of this value, and course exit survey, you carry out the course exit survey, look how the students have given the feedback. You have their 4 indicator levels or 5 indicator levels, and if your 60 percentage of the student are happy with your course delivery and they know the concepts of each course outcomes, so then you have to give 3 again here, and finally you have to calculate the 20 percentage of that weightage for indirect assessment, and finally these values are added together, and we will take the average of these values, right? The average of this value is 2.68, right? The PO1. So the attained is how much? Out of 2.83, 2.83. So we have got PO1, PO1 that is 2.83, 2.83, right? And how much we have attained? One third of this, right? One third of this value. How do you get this one? So one third, that is 2.83 multiplied by this average of this, right? So you take the average value multiplied by 2.83 and divided by 3. So this was the values we have obtained here, and that is what 95 percentage of uh, that is 2.83 is the target, and 2.68 is the level what we have achieved. So 95 percentage we have achieved. Okay, and in the course coordinator meeting they will say that it is not mandatory to reach the maximum saturation level. So they say, like, if you achieve target of 70 percentage also we are happy, right? So the final bar is here, right? And you have been moving from this, and this was the target set. So for every PO or CO attainment, they say that if you touch around 75 percentage of this value, that is 2.83, 75 percentage of that, then you have achieved the target, right? But 2.83 is an ideal value. 2.68 is the attained value. And how much we are expecting for you to touch, right? Say for example, 75 percentage of 2.83, but we have achieved 95 percentage, right? So it means that your delivery, your teaching methodology, or your student have understood the activities what you have carried out, they have understood completely. So this is a quick a discussion about the COPO mapping, attainment, and finally, if you have to close your course file by giving identifying the gaps. Suppose if I have not achieved, so 2.83 is the ideal value, and if I take say for example ideal value is 2.83, and your target they have kept it as 2.122, 2.122, and you have achieved something like, say for example, 1.58, 1.58 you have achieved, attained, right? Just an example I'm saying, 1.58. So what is 1.58? So 1.58 divided by 2.83. So you have achieved 50, only 55 percentage you have attained, right? And how much was the target? They have given 75, 70 percentage, that is 2.122 you have to attain. Now where is this gap now? So 15 percentage of the gap, why we have failed to achieve that 15 percentage, where we have lacked. So that you have to identify, and the whole process, your whole pedagogy needs to be relooked into, and you have to identify, you need to locate the gaps, and how we are going to address in the next batch. So that we are going to end the course file, and the next batch who is going to take, they will open, they will see that with this teaching pedagogy there was a 15 percentage of the gap we have found. So we need to have an innovative or a different way of pedagogy in terms of blended videos, in terms of synchronous videos, asynchronous videos, flipped classes, blended classes, collaborative learning, cooperative learning, project-based learning, activity-based learning. So any teaching pedagogy you have to implement and you have to fill that gaps. So that is how the next course plan or the lesson plan needs to be designed before the commencement of the semester. So guys, thank you very much. If you have any doubt, you can please feel free to email me. So you can just note down my email ID b dot, or you can take my personal ID umaid037 at gmail.com. So you can just mail me your queries, or you need any help, you can reach out uh, to my mail ID. So definitely I will help you in this. So thank you very much.